Macmillan Audio presents Blackmail by Rick Campbell. Read for you by Michael Kramer. One. Western Pacific. USS Theodore Roosevelt. Night was falling over the Western Pacific as USS Theodore Roosevelt surged through dark green waters, headed into a brisk wind. Seated in the captain's chair on the bridge of his Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, Captain Rich Tillman observed two FA-18E Super Hornets locked into the bow catapults, their engines glowing reddish-orange in the twilight. In a few seconds, both aircraft would head out to relieve fighters in Roosevelt's combat air patrol, as the carrier strike group cruised several hundred miles off the coast of China, just beyond range of China's DF-21 missile, nicknamed Carrier Killer. A few months ago, that's exactly what the Chinese missiles had done. The war between China and the United States was short but devastating. There had been no declaration of war by either country or a formal ceasefire. The combat had halted once the outcome became clear. Although America prevailed, the cost was high. 4 heavily damaged aircraft carriers were in shipyards being repaired, while a 5th rested on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, leaving USS Ronald Reagan as the sole operational Pacific Fleet carrier. Submarine losses had been heavy, with the opposing sides virtually wiping each other out, and U.S. surface ship losses had been high as well. What remained of the U.S. Pacific Fleet had been augmented with Atlantic Fleet units shifted to the Pacific, joining USS Ronald Reagan. Not far to the south, the Reagan Strike Group was also on deployment, with the United States keeping 2 carrier strike groups off China's coast at all times. Captain Tillman's attention returned to the 2 Super Hornets as the bow catapults fired. The aircraft streaked across the flight deck, then rocketed upward, their paths marked by the white-hot glow of their afterburners against the darkening sky. Not long thereafter, the first of the returning aircraft landed, announced by the squeal of tires hitting the deck and the hydraulic hum of arresting wire motors, as the Super Hornet's tailhook snagged number 3 wire. The FA-18 was soon headed to the nearest elevator for a trip to the hangar deck, while a second aircraft landed. Tillman pushed himself to his feet and left the bridge for a short tour of his ship before calling it a night. So far this deployment, it had been all quiet on the Western Front. K-456 Vilyachinsk. Captain First Rank Dmitry Pavlov stood at the back of the Central Command post aboard his Antey-class guided missile submarine, called Oscar II by NATO, surveying his men at their watch stations as they shadowed an American carrier strike group to the west. The crew's orders and reports were calm and professional, reflecting the proficiency a crew gains after several months at sea. Vilyachinsk's watch officer, Captain Lieutenant Dolinsky, monitored the submarine's depth, steady at 70 meters, occasionally checking the status of their communications, verifying they were copying the broadcast on the floating wire antenna trailing several hundred meters behind the submarine. The communications post was downloading the latest round of naval messages, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until the speakers near Pavlov energized. "Command post communications. Have received the commanding officer-only message." Pavlov acknowledged and entered the communications post, stopping by the 2 printers. "Ready?" The radio man hit the print button, and a message slid from the left printer. Pavlov read the directive, then read it again. He took the message to the Central Command post, addressing one of the 2 messengers. "Request the first officer's presence in the command post." The senior seaman acknowledged and departed in search of the submarine's second-in-command, and a moment later, Captain Second Rank Mikhail Ivanov arrived. Pavlov motioned Ivanov to join.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?